Andrew McGahan for SevereMMA, here alongside Senior Vice President Eric Winter.
How you doing, Andrew?
Fight Pass, for a lot of people, when it started off, sounded like an unreal idea, the Netflix of the UFC. It was met with criticisms at the start, but do you see that as growing problems? People are never going to be happy with a product as soon as it's released.
I think it's brilliant that Lorenzo, Dana, and the rest of the organization, they had the insight to want to take all the assets that they had, including live and video on demand, and putting it in one repository and making it available for their fans. I think it was a brilliant move, and they were 2 years ahead of not just the competition, but the industry as a whole. I think it was a wise decision, and nothing was perfect when they launched it at the very beginning. And whether it's technological product or media product, you're always going to iterate on a product. Iterate means you're always going to tweak it and fix it from a technological perspective, from a video perspective, and a live event perspective.
So you've been in the role for a couple of weeks now. If you're looking at tweaking and changing things, for you, when you got in there, what was the one thing you felt needed addressing straight away, or what was the one thing you wanted to see change?
You know, it's an interesting question, and Lorenzo asked me that question in the first executive staff meeting that I went to. And my answer was probably not the answer that he expected. I told him when I looked under the hood for the first few weeks, I was overjoyed with what I saw. I expected it to be a little bit leaky, a little bit creaky, but it was a phenomenal job done by the entire organization to take all the assets, to put it together. You have to remember, there are people at the UFC who are wearing multiple hats, people who are running the PR department that are also doing marketing, and vice versa. And any person at UFC carries multiple jobs under their belt and under their title. And so there were people that were taking 5-10% of their time of their normal day shift and helping out to launch the Fight Pass business. And what I saw for the first time was a phenomenal product that obviously could get better, but get better not because of the job that was done, that it was a poor job. It was a phenomenal job by the organization. So the benchmark, the foundation of what they have is here as opposed to down here. And I'm really excited to just tweak it and make some subtle changes along the way, and it's going to get better.
Obviously, I'm biased, but the thing that I enjoyed the most and saw what the UFC did in the last maybe 2 years was when they attempted to sponsor the European Judo Championships last year, and they ended up having to pull it, otherwise they were going to move the whole event completely, and that was an issue between politics regarding judo. And then this year at International Fight Week, the IBJJF American Nationals, which are a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, were a part of UFC Fight Week. So it was more people, there was more people at the tournament than ever, pretty much, that you would ever see before, and it was because it was all under the UFC banner. We've also seen more promotions get added to Fight Pass. That was the last big announcement, more on-demand services. Is this the way it's going? Maybe it's not just mixed martial arts. Is it a combat sports thing that you're going to hope to turn Fight Pass into? You could have maybe Jiu-Jitsu World Championships, you could have Kickboxing World Championships.
I think it's a great way to think about the business, and don't take me literally, but 3 to 5 years down the road. I think we owe it to ourselves as a company. I think we owe it first and foremost to our customers to provide the best live fighting experience possible. The 40-plus UFC events, every single one of them will be live on Fight Pass, or some of those fights for each card will be live on Fight Pass. The X amount of those events throughout the year will be Fight Pass exclusive. And then for all the non-UFC MMA organizations, we still have a job to do to sign the premier organizations around the world. So once we get finished working with and signing up those third-party MMA organizations, then we can start working on the derivative sports that make up the great sport that we love, mixed martial arts. Might it be judo, taekwondo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or any type of, it could be boxing, you never know. But you have to think about it in increments on an annual basis. Right now, I'm focused on 2016, and I've got a big job ahead of me.
As they say, content is king, and if I could throw my conspiracy hat theory on for a few minutes, the biggest star in the UFC at the minute, or one of them, is Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor's UFC library is all there, but a lot of his fights took place outside of it. Let's just say, theory's sake, Conor McGregor and Joseph Duffy may be on a collision course sometime in the next 2 years. The organisation that has all that footage, as I said before, was Cage Warriors. It seems like a no-brainer. If I'm going to get ahead of myself, I think that maybe they're the next guys that we could see be added, because then the UFC automatically, Joseph Duffy highlights, Conor McGregor highlights. Imagine the build-up that they could create for this.
I think it's our responsibility as an organization to bring the best non-UFC MMA organizations to our customers. We're talking with MMA organizations around the world. Some we're a signature away, Some we're in the middle of negotiations, and some we're just talking on the phone right now. But it's our responsibility to our customers around the world, whether they're in the UK, Australia. We just launched Brace MMA. Really excited about that organization. We're going around the world, and we're going to partner with the best of the best.
As someone who's followed the European scene and followed the domestic scene, it seems like sometimes promotions try to almost compete with the UFC or think they were bigger than the UFC, like trying to tie guys down to exclusive contracts. Do you think the way forward is working in partnership with the UFC? No one will eclipse them in terms of what they've done from a domestic point of view, but why not be known as the company or organisation that has produced them multiple fighters of European high standard a year?
You know, I think it's a loaded question. I leave those decisions up to Lorenzo and Dana on how they'd like to structure arrangements. Yeah. My sole responsibility is to run the single most important digital product that the UFC has, which is our digital streaming service. Go out there and acquire the rights for live fights, libraries around the world. But to answer your question, I can't go too deep and narrow on how we want to structure those types of arrangements.
Two quick things. First of all, Fight Pass seems like it has unlimited potential in terms of what it can produce outside of fight content. So maybe whoever's headlining the next Dublin card, like it did now, an on-the-fly sort of thing, following around Paddy Houlihan, seeing him jumping off the 40-foot, going pier jumping in Dunleary, which Irish people do quite a lot. Is this the sort of direction that we're going to see the content at least being taken in the future?
Yeah, I think there's a gentleman on the team. His name is Ant Evans. He's been in with the UFC for years. He started in the London office, moved out to the Vegas office.
Gary Cook style.
Yeah, definitely Gary Cook style. But we have a huge and a quality production team. But what I see in Ant is Ant goes out there and he creates a lot of these original programming, this original content that's exclusive to Fight Pass. And I want to unleash the power of Ant to work with our production team and any company that we want to work with that wants to create original programming for us. We just launched the new Cover Athlete. So every single month we're going to take an A-list fighter, an A-level fighter, and they're going to be the host of UFC Fight Pass. So on Monday of this week, we had Misha Tate in the office, and we shot her all day long. Different types of promotions, different types of clips. She's going to give us the top 8 and most important female fighters in history. And she goes through the list with us. She does some shout outs. Our goal is to evolve the content, whether it's the A-level fighters to original programming, live events, and you may see some additional looking for a fight down the road.
Finally, I hope you're a man that knows pop culture and this doesn't go over your head, but are we going to see the phrase Fight Pass and chill in mainstream media in the next couple of years?
Lorenzo and I were talking about that. I think if you do a Yahoo search or a Google search, you might find it out there.
It's already there?
Yes, it is.
So Netflix and chill is done?
It's 5 years ago.
Excellent. Eric, thank you very much. See you soon.
Great meeting you.